Hello class, good day. I will be giving you a topic for ethics, no? For ethics class, covering ethics and religion, the connection of ethics and religion, as well as moral relativism versus moral absolutism, and lastly, the moral theories, the definition of moral theories. So I'll be giving you this overview, not really the overview, but the technicalities surrounding these terms, in order for you to have an understanding or a better understanding before we're gonna proceed to some perspectives of moral theories. So the perspectives I'm talking about, especially if you are going to talk or to judge an action, no, if it's right and wrong, it's the moral theories. No, we will be tackling the moral theories later on after this. So I want you to familiarize and to take this to heart. Although we have not met, due to some technical reality that we've been suffering from brownouts today. It's fine. Much better this way now because I understand that some of you are living or residing in rural areas and even as far as to hinterlands, no, having this, we have a Baguio, having this kind of situation, hinay kayo mga signal. So ato lang ni siya nga naons for the meantime. Anyway, at least dili masayang ang atong oras. So for ethics and religion, the question that might arise probably is religion the source of morality? Is this is the one giving us the moral rules, the religion, or is ethics kinda independent from religion? So I will be answering that question, no? If either ethics is dependent or independent of religion. So as we know that we have so many religions, no? We have, I guess the major religions. We have the Hinduism, we have the Buddhism, we have Christianity, we have Islam, we have Protestants belongs to Christianity. What else? I'm not sure, no, if Confucianism, Shintoism, or a type of religion, but probably. So these religions, this group, no, are actually offering or giving its adherents or followers moral content in the form of precepts or commandments. So the most common commandments or the known commandments is the Decalogue or the Ten Commandments, which was given to Moses in the I guess if it's in Genesis, or yeah, it's in Genesis. So one of the most known doctrine is God makes the moral law. Is really God the one making moral laws or not? So probably you might say, knowing that we've been influenced, no, since our childhood, that about the how big, no, the role God is playing in our lives. We've been influenced by that. We've been taught. We've been told. We've been informed, not just by our parents, but by our teachers, by our elders, about how important or how vital the role of God is in our lives. So sometimes hadlokon bata nga masuko si Papa God, masuko si Mama Mary in that way. So that became, no, terms or words has imprinted already in our hearts. So we might say that God really makes the moral law. So in what way? No, this is one of the debated topic, no, topic in ethics. If God is really the one who makes, no, moral laws, or the one what do you call that? Ang naglagda, no, naglagda what is right and what is wrong, no. So one of the common theory for this one is the divine command theory. So sugo na sa Diyos, no? The supernatural being, the supreme being, the divine command theory. So right and wrong in this theory are constituted by the will of God. So it is it is constituted by the will of God. So it's dependent to God, no? That we can say that it is right or wrong based on how God sees it fit, no? If it's right, then it's right. If it's wrong, then it's wrong, no? So right actions are commanded by God, while wrong actions are prohibited by God. So that's how we're gonna look, no, in this theory. How we gonna judge things based on this theory. So here, in this sense, no, in this theory, there is an objective morality. No, if we are basing morality in this theory, then there is an objective reality. So objective morality. So we will know later what is objective morality. So let me ask you first the question: are actions right because God commands them? Nahimo bang insakto ang usa ka action because God commands it? God commands you to do it. Probably for the believers, for us believers, yes, we believe in that it is right because God's commanded. Or thus God commands them because they are right. So let's first now. These are the two questions that are representing the two sides of the coin. First is, are actions right because God commands them? Insakto bang usa ka lihok tungod kay kini gisugo sa Dios, or does God command those actions because they are right? So atong tagsa-tagsaon. For the first question, moral law is um, no. The first one, God makes the moral law. So that's how we view. No, that's not the definition. The definition is God makes the moral law. In the first question, since our actions right because God commands them, in this question, the rightness and the wrongness of the action is dependent to God. So that's why if it is dependent to God, so God is the maker of moral laws, no? Siya ang naglagda kung unsay insakto, unsay sayop, unsay maayo, unsay dili maayo. So God is the maker of the moral law. That's why He is the only one who can tell, no, that it is, if it's right or wrong. So are actions right because God commands them? No? Insakto ba siya kay gisugo siya sa Dios nga himuon? Well, the second one, does God command them because they are right? Iya ba ning gisugo tungod kay insakto na siya nga buhat or buhatonon? No? In this question, the rightness of or the wrongness of the action is independent from God, no? And God needs to do it as well. Even though He is not the maker, since the moral law is independently from God, and even He, no, bisag siya, needs to obey those moral laws. So does God commands them or command them because they are right? So this is independent, no? Ako, for example, I am God. I am telling you to do it because it is right, not from my own judgment, not from my own commandment that you have to do it, but it is right, regardless on my belief if it's wrong or right. No, it is kinda independent from God. So this one is dependent to God because He is the maker, so He is the only one who can tell. But this one, He is not the one telling it. Kumbaga, it is distance, no? Nakadistansya sa Diyos ang rightness and wrongness of the action. It is much broader in a sense that morality and the moral laws is independent. It is not made by humans, not made by God, not made by anyone. No. So morality, in this sense that it is independent from God, morality is arbitrary. Paano siya nahimong arbitrary class? It has become um, morality has become subjective, no? Nagdepende siya sa subject, no? Kung insakto siya or maayo. This one, the morality becomes a subjective or relative. This one here, there is an objective morality, no? So that is objective morality. So I know that I've already told you about objectivism and subjectivism in our previous discussion, but I just want to reiterate, no, that objective morality talks about the same rule to follow, no, for everyone. While arbitrary or subjective, the rightness or the wrongness of the action varies from the subject, no. It depends from the subject. So terms we have to familiarize. First is moral objectivism. We have to know first what is moral objectivism. Moral objectivism, these are moral standards that are true and correct for everyone. No, kumbaga, it is, it is what it is. No, these are moral standards that are true and correct for everyone. It cannot be kumbaga it cannot be what do you call that, negotiated. No, it is what it is. They are true independently from individuals or societies belief. Insakto siya regardless what you or the others or the society will say, or what is the belief, what is your belief, or what is the belief of the society. It is independent, no, from you, from the others, and from the society as a whole. So kumbaga tinuod siya regardless of our judgments. But we have to understand as well that there is much more extreme than objectivism, and that is absolutism. But it somehow, more objectivism leads to absolutism in some way. This is actually kind of extreme than objectivism. Moral absolutism class, this is the notion that moral principles must apply without exceptions in all cases, or without adaptation to particular circumstances, without excuses, and whatever the circumstances is. It is what it is. It is much more extreme than objectivism. No? Actually, this definition, moral standards are true and correct for everyone. That can also be the definition of absolutism, but added with the must apply without exceptions. Now we have a famous saying actually that every general rule there is an exemption, but that will not apply for the absolutist. They believe that the rule must apply to all, regardless of what the belief of anybody, the belief or society. It must be applied without exceptions and whatever the circumstances is. So sometimes objectivist uses the absolutist way or believes that moral principles are prima facie, so applicable unless exceptions is warranted. Now, prima facie is saying that for this is for the objectivist actually. Now, for the objectivist, it it is somehow similar to absolutism, as I said earlier. Um, but the objectivism or the objectivist will bend, no, will bend the rule if there is an exemption or exceptions warranted, kung gi-warrant ang exception, no. So muna siya nga mas extreme ang moral absolutism in a sense that it must be applied without exceptions. So let's proceed to moral relativism. This is actually the moral relativism is the rejection of the objectivist view. No, the moral standards do not have independent status but are relative to what individuals or cultures believe. No, Take note that in moral relativism there are two views. That is subjective and cultural. Now, subjective, this is based on individuals, no, while the base of cultural is cultures. No, one society with having same culture. So moral standards do not have an independent status but are relative to what individuals or cultures believe. So kumbaga mo depende siya sa individuals o sa cultures, no? What you believe and what your culture believe, or the belief of your culture. So kumbaga, an action is morally right if an individual or a culture condones it. Kung it tolerates nimo o sa culture na i-tolerate nimo na siyang action, that means you're saying that it is right. Wrong if an individual, you, or a culture condemns it. So, objective moral truth is non-existent according to the relativists. No? Objective moral truth is non-existent. They are actually trying to deny that there's no such objective moral truth, or saying that there is a moral laws that are correct and true to everyone. So they denied or reject that view. No? So if the arbiter is an individual, then that is a subjective relativism. While if culture is the arbiter, it is cultural relativism. So if we are going to consider individual as an arbiter, now let's say for example, if an individual is an arbiter, then you will judge the action as right or wrong morally through your own belief, no? Excuse me. That will based on your own belief, no, or perception. Then it is right. Kung imong tolerate, then it is right. But if you condemn it, then it is wrong, no? While these are the points that we need to consider. You know, if we are a subjectivist, not that we believe that the rightness or the wrongness of the action based on the individual's point of view. No, first, you are fallible. You are subject to mistakes. When you say fallible, nang dili ka perfecto. You can commit mistakes. Sometimes, as I said previously, that if we are blinded with emotion by our prejudice and biases, we tend to judge people or actions according to our biases. We are more inclined to judge those actions on how that person looks, on how that person appear, or the status of the person, or the race of the person, the gender of the person. We are fallible. As much as we want to be perfect, but we cannot be perfect. That is the reality that we need to accept. Moral equivalence. All our judgments are equal, even though different from each other. So let's say, for example, there is only one action, or one scenario. A serial killer approve of killings, while you disapprove it. No? Let's say dunay usa ka serial killer, then ikaw no atong itandi, no, atong i-compare ang usa ka serial killer. Syempre killer siya, he will approve that killing is right, while you will disapprove that because you do not believe that killing is right. So you disapprove it because you believe that it is always wrong. Since moral equivalence in subjectivism, we believe that all judgments are equal. Kining judgment sa usa ka serial killer ug imong judgment is equal. So that means your judgment is as worse is as worse as the serial killer's judgments by virtue of moral equivalence. So compare nimo kay pareho man equal, no? Wala may mas mulabaw ani ninyong duha, equal man, moral equivalence, no? That is how a relativist or a subjectivist will view the judgments of individual. Equals. We are equals, no? Regardless if we are pointing at different directions, we are equal. So muna siya, in that sense, you can say that it's absurd, no? Murag dili yung maayong equal atong judgments, whereas ang judgment of serial killer nga i-tolerate ang pagmamatay, no? That's unacceptable. Well, the next is moral disagreements. Now, given that we have different beliefs, then there should be moral disagreements. Our judgments on the same thing are different. So let's say, for example, on the attack, no, that the recently commemorated 9/11 victims, nor the attack September 11 um, on the highest tower of USA. So one said that the 911 attack is morally justified. No, the point of view, this the justification was based on, I guess it was, I do not know how they justify that, while you viewed it as not morally justified. No, you will be disagreeing on the justification on the matter of the 911 attack, of the September 11 attack. So nag-disagree mo, then although you are just expressing, you're just expressing how you view it as wrong or right. Since we are trying to judge the scenario or the action of the attack, we disagreed on the matter. No, we cannot avoid the disagreement, so that can lead to a problematic judgment, because although you are equal, and uh, the fact that you have different judgment on that same thing, then you will be disagreeing whatever or however you gonna justify that. All right, let's proceed. So while on the other hand, if you are a cultural relativist, now let's say for example that you believe that cultures will not commit mistake because the rule of right and wrong is based on the consensus of the society, based on the general agreement, the agreement of many, no? So nag-agree mo, but in that case, not all things that done by many is right, no? Not all things that is done by few is always wrong, no? Dili po ta makaingon nga sige daghan nagbuhat ana insakto na siya, di po ta makaingon nga mayroon nagbuhat niya, sayop na po na siya. So we have to consider this following. If you are a cultural relativist, cultures are morally fallible. Same as individuals, cultures will also be fallible. Though they would tell us that cultures decides as a group, no, based on consensus. It's still fallible in a sense. Let's say, for example, there are so many cultures, no, in the world, and the cultures of the other. Let's say, for example, there are different point of view on the same thing. How would you, let's say for example, Germany earlier, no? Germany in the time of Hitler exterminated millions of Jews. They approve it. The Germans approve that because they were convinced and influenced that the Jews are salot, or I do not know how as something that is bad to their nation, or whatsoever reasons was that, no? They approve of the extermination of Jews, no? What about for the Jews? It's very implausible or unacceptable that they will be exterminated. So there will be a conflicting cultures, the Jews and the Germans. So to accept Germany's approval of the extermination of millions of Jews as morally right is unacceptable. Other societies, so basically, in that sense, that saying that cultures are beyond criticism, nga dili ta maka-criticize sa culture, but we have to respect the culture. Yes, respect the culture. Yes, it is, no? Respect the culture. But when it comes to moral discussion, we always have the right, no, to condemn other societies for morally heinous acts. Let's say, for example, what the international law, the international community, the USA and the European nations are doing to those who are committing humanitarian or human rights violations. Diba? Gina-criticize nila si Duterte, gina-criticize nilang administration, knowing that there are reports of human rights violations. So we all have the right to condemn, no, the other societies who are committing heinous acts, no? Dili pwede na to na siyang ato lang siyang pasagdaan. We always have something to say. Let's just say for example about there's so many agreements before, like arranged marriage, like that. It was greatly criticized as the modern time goes on, as time goes on. So it became lesser na lang, no, ang practice. Siguro mga remote areas na lang ang continue ga practice na, but it's no longer widely practiced because it has been criticized by many. So the other one is cultural relativism denies moral progress. So kumbaga, ilang gi-deny ang moral progress that there's no such thing as moral progress. What is moral progress? Immoral acts of the past are no longer practiced today. So for the objectivists, they believe that there is a moral progress. There are things that we were doing in the past that we are not doing now in the present. Let's say, for example, slavery, racial discrimination. Although there are still, at least it's no longer that rampant. What else? There are so many, there are so many examples of that. Slavery, racial discrimination, the white and the black. The rights of women was greatly deprived before the 20th century. Those times, no, it was criticized, and it's no longer that rampant today, no. Nawala na siya, namatamad na siya kabago. So there is really a moral progress, although the relativists will deny that, but that is reality. We no longer will no longer tolerate that, no. Let's say, for example, those in the past years, no, I mean in the ancient and the medieval times, killings are rampant. Killings is everywhere, and especially if it cannot be controlled, no, by the governing people. So it will remain as it is without even bothering to solve the cases, no. But now we have the police force, we have the justice system. It somehow there's, although naragyapon, but at least minimize, no, medyo namat-amatan siya kabago. So bisag kung saon na siya deny sa cultural relativist, it is happening. There is really moral progress. So now you have the options, no, either to side either with the objectivist view or the excuse me, or either with the relativist, no, relativist either an subjectivist or cultural relativist. So na diha ang duwa. Do you want yourself to be the canon of moral laws? Ikaw mo'y mahimong judge sa kainsakto hunog kasaypunon sa action. Remember that you are fallible. You can commit mistakes at any time. Cultures can commit mistakes at any time. There are always the moral equivalence is problematic, and moral disagreements is always possible. And cultures is not beyond criticism when it comes to moral discussion, no? When we talk about morality, because morality is something that we protect, no? Atong protektahan ang tagsa-tagsa. So before we're gonna proceed, I know I will be sharing later on. First, the virtue ethics, which was the work of Aristotle. Now, it is a perspective, no, of telling us what makes man good, no. Yahan ani siya unsa ang paghubog, pagform sa tawo into a good person. So I will be sharing that later on. But for now, the technicalities will be revolved up to this. So I'll give you first the definition of moral theories. Now, virtue ethics is a moral theory. Utilitarianism, deontology, and so on are moral theories. So moral theories explains an action is right or wrong. So these theories will give us, no, their point of view of what is right and wrong, or why a person or a person's character is good or bad. And the other definition, it tells us what it is about an action that makes it right, or what it is about a person that makes him or her good, no. So that will be the backbone of the theories, no. Mag-revolve sila around that, giving standards or giving reasons why an action is wrong or bad or right, or why is a person good or bad. So that will be tackled in those theories. But for now, This I will stop from here. So for you, in order for you to take notes of this, no, all of this about the relationship of religion and ethics, that there are two, no. Again, let me repeat. There are two point of view on the relationship of ethics and religion. First, that ethics is dependent to religion, and the other is that ethics is independent to religion. Ethics is dependent to religion in the virtue of divine command theory, and ethics is independent to religion when it comes to morality as arbitrary. No? That it depends upon the individuals or the cultures. No? So, and we talk about the difference of moral objectivism, absolutism, relativism, and the terms under relativism, which is um, subjectivism and the cultural relativism. So that's all for today. That's all for this discussion. So God bless. Amping mo kanunay.